The war room buzzed with angry voices. Holographic star maps filled the air above the massive circular table. Red dots marked Krex Empire fleets. Blue dots showed Zephyrian Federation ships. Both sides had been building up their forces for months. Ambassador Veltar of the Nithik watched the heated arguments with growing concern. His gray skin had turned pale, and his four eyes darted between the military commanders from both factions. The Galactic Council had tried to keep peace for over 300 years. Now that peace was cracking like old glass. "Your ships crossed into our territory first," shouted General Thax of the Krex Empire. His red scales flared with anger. "The mining rights to the Kepler Nebula belong to us." Admiral Zekelin of the Zephyrian Federation stood up quickly. Her blue skin glowed brighter when she was mad. "Those mining rights expired 50 years ago. The Council records clearly show." "Enough." Veltar's voice cut through the noise. His translator device made his words echo in the chamber. "We are here to find peace, not to throw blame around like children." The room went quiet. Veltar had been a mediator for over 60 years. He had stopped 12 wars and settled hundreds of disputes. But this felt different. Both sides wanted the same valuable resource deposits. Neither side would back down. "Let me see the battle plans," Veltar said quietly. General Thax hesitated. "Battle plans? We are still hoping for peace, Ambassador." "Do not lie to me, General. I can see the fleet movements on the tactical displays. Show me what you have prepared." With reluctant movements, General Thax activated his personal datapad. A new holographic map appeared. It showed the planned attack routes through space. Veltar studied the glowing lines carefully. Something looked strange. "Admiral Zekelin, your plans as well, please." The Admiral shared her battle plans too. Veltar compared both maps. His eyes widened as he noticed something very odd. Both sides had drawn their attack routes around the same area of space. A large empty zone marked only with the simple label Sol System. "Why do your fleets avoid this sector?" Veltar asked, pointing at the empty space. Both commanders looked uncomfortable. General Thax cleared his throat loudly. "That area. It has difficult navigation hazards." Admiral Zekelin nodded quickly. "Yes, very dangerous asteroid fields. Not worth the risk." Veltar had been a diplomat long enough to know when people were lying. He pulled up the official star charts. The Sol System showed no unusual hazards. Just one yellow star with several small planets. Nothing that would make experienced military commanders afraid. "These charts show no navigation problems," Veltar said slowly. "The charts are old," General Thax said quickly. "New asteroid storms. Very dangerous. Recent solar flares too," Admiral Zekelin added. "Terrible radiation. Impossible to fly through safely." Veltar noticed that both commanders were now sweating despite the cool air in the chamber. Their stories did not match the official data. He decided to push harder. "I think we should move the peace talks to a neutral location. Perhaps a space station near the Sol System would work well." The reaction was immediate. General Thax jumped to his feet. "No, that would be inconvenient for supply lines." Admiral Zekelin shook her head rapidly. "Much too far from our main bases. Very poor choice. But according to these maps, it sits exactly between your territories. Perfect neutral ground." Both commanders exchanged worried glances. General Thax spoke in a whisper. "Ambassador, please trust us. That area should remain undisturbed." After the meeting ended, Veltar stayed behind to think. In 60 years of diplomacy, he had never seen military leaders afraid of an empty star system. He called up his assistant, a young Altarian named Kix. "Kix, I need you to research the Sol System. Find everything in our historical databases. Right away, Ambassador. Should I look for anything specific? Yes. Find out why two of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy are afraid to fly through empty space. 3 hours later, Kix returned with a small data crystal. His normally bright yellow skin had turned a worried orange color. Ambassador, I found very little information. Most records about that system are classified at the highest levels. What did you find? Just fragments, sir. References to something called the Harvester War about 200 years ago. And this strange entry from Admiral Korth's personal log. Kix activated his datapad. An old voice recording began to play. Personal log, Admiral Korth. Krex 5th Fleet. Date. Standard 2247.8. The Harvester fleets have been stopped. I still cannot believe what we witnessed. Command has ordered all records sealed. We are forbidden from entering the Sol. Within the Sol. Exclusion zone. The order comes directly from High Command and carries the death penalty for violations. I have told my officers that the area contains dangerous spatial anomalies. It is better they believe this lie than learn the truth. Some knowledge is too dangerous to share. The recording ended. Veltar sat in silence for several minutes. Kix, who else knows about this recording? No one, sir. I found it buried in archived personal files. It was marked for deletion, but never processed. Keep this information private. Tell no one. Yes, sir. But Ambassador, what do you think happened in that system? Veltar looked out at the stars through the chamber's large windows. Somewhere out there, a small yellow star held secrets that scared the most powerful beings in the galaxy. I do not know. Kix, but I have a feeling we are about to find out. The next morning brought terrible news. Krex and Zephyrian fleets had begun moving toward their battle positions. The peace talks had failed. War would begin within days, and somewhere in the distance, the mysterious Sol system waited in silence, surrounded by warnings that no one wanted to explain. Dr. Kixara rubbed her tired eyes with her thin blue fingers. She had been working in the research lab for 18 hours straight. The war between her people, the Zephyrian Federation, and the Krex Empire was getting worse every day. Her job was to find new hyperspace routes that could help move supply ships safely. The computer screens around her showed complex maps of space. Lines of light marked the safe paths ships could take to travel faster than light speed. But the war had made many of these routes too dangerous to use. She needed to find new ones quickly. Computer, show me all archived hyperspace survey data for sectors 12 through 18, she said with a yawn. Access granted. Displaying archived survey data from the past 300 years. New information flooded her screens. Most of it was boring survey reports about empty space and small planets. She scrolled through hundreds of files, looking for anything useful. Then something caught her attention. One file had a strange marking. Instead of the usual green open access label, this one showed red text. Classification Level 9, Restricted Access. Kixara had never seen a Level 9 classification before. Her security clearance only went to Level 7. Her curiosity got the better of her. She tried to open the file anyway. Access denied. This file requires Level 10 clearance or higher. Level 10? That was almost impossible to get. Only top government officials and military commanders had that level of clearance. Why would a simple hyperspace survey report need such high security? Kixara was very good with computers. Her professors had always said she was too curious for her own good. She spent the next 2 hours using her technical skills to carefully probe the computer system. She did not try to break into the file directly. That would set off security alarms. Instead, she looked for backup copies or temporary files that might not have the same protection. Finally, she found something. a backup database that contained fragments of old files. The security protocols were older and weaker. After careful work, she managed to access a partial copy of the restricted report. What she read made her hands shake. Harvester Incursion Final Report, Admiral Vexilon Commanding. Date: Standard 2248.3. Classification: Level 10, Eyes Only. The report described something terrifying. An alien race called the Harvesters had come from outside the galaxy. These were not living beings. They were machines, but machines that could think and learn. They traveled in huge fleets of ships that looked like giant metal insects. The Harvesters had one goal: to consume all organic life and turn it into fuel for their machines. They had already destroyed 3 entire star systems. Billions of people had died. The galactic military forces had tried to stop them, but failed completely. Harvester technology was far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Kixar read about desperate battles in space. Entire fleets of galactic ships had been destroyed in minutes. The Harvesters seemed impossible to defeat. Their ships could repair themselves. Their weapons could cut through any armor. Worst of all, they learned from every battle and became stronger. But then, the report described something strange. The main Harvester fleet, millions of ships strong, had suddenly changed course. Instead of attacking more populated systems, they had turned toward a small, unimportant star system on the edge of the galaxy. A system called Sol. Emergency transmission received from Harvester Fleet Alpha. Message content: priority target identified. Proceeding to Sol 3 for immediate harvest. Estimated completion time: 72 standard hours. All other operations suspended pending harvest completion. The report continued. Harvester Fleet Alpha arrived at Sol system on date 2248.1. Initial communication attempts with local inhabitants failed. Long-range sensors detected primitive technology level. Harvesters proceeded with standard harvest protocol. Then something impossible happened. The next entry in the report was dated 6 months later. Deep Space Reconnaissance Mission to Sol System completed. Results: no Harvester presence detected. Extensive debris field found throughout system. Analysis suggests Harvester technology, but in small fragments. No signs of Harvester ships. No response to communication attempts. Local planet Sol 3 still inhabited. Recommend immediate quarantine of entire sector pending further investigation. Kixar stared at the screen in shock. A Harvester fleet of millions of ships had disappeared. The same fleet that had destroyed 3 star systems had simply vanished near a primitive planet called Earth. She kept reading, looking for more information. The next entries were even stranger. Secondary reconnaissance report: unknown vessels detected in Sol system. Ship designs incorporate Harvester technology but show clear modifications. Ships do not respond to standard identification requests. Recommend maintaining quarantine distance. Warning to all ships: Sol system designated as exclusion zone by Joint Command Order. Any vessel approaching within 50 light years will be destroyed without warning. This order applies to all galactic military forces. Exception requests will not be considered. The final entry made Kixara's blood turn cold. Personal note from Admiral Vexilon: I have seen the fate of the Harvester fleets. I have seen what the inhabitants of Sol 3 are capable of. I strongly recommend that this information remain classified forever. Some knowledge is too dangerous for civilization to possess. The inhabitants of Sol 3 have sent one message to Galactic Command. Thanks for the heads up about the metal locusts. We've handled the pest problem. No need to follow up. I pray we never have to deal with them again. Kixara sat back in her chair, breathing hard. The humans of Earth had defeated the Harvesters. Somehow, a primitive species had destroyed a fleet that the entire Galaxy could not stop Dot. She quickly copied all the files she could access and stored them on a private data crystal. This information was too important to keep secret. The war between her people and the Kreks was getting desperate. Both sides needed to know about this, but as she prepared to contact her superiors, alarms began ringing throughout the research station. Security guards rushed through the corridors. Her computer screen flashed red. Dr. Kixara, report to Security Office 1 immediately. Bring all research materials. Her hands moved quickly, hiding the data crystal in her shoe. She had been caught accessing the restricted files. But she had managed to copy the most important information first. 20 minutes later, she sat across from Director Zelmuth, the head of the research station. His large black eyes showed no emotion. Dr. Kixara, you have accessed classified information without authorization. This is a serious crime during wartime. Director, I was just looking for hyperspace routes. I did not mean to. The files you accessed are classified for the safety of all galactic civilization. You will be transferred to Deep Space Research Station Omega immediately. Your security clearance is revoked. You will speak of this to no one. Omega Station was at the edge of nowhere. Scientists sent there were usually never heard from again. But Kixara smiled slightly as the guards led her away. Before her arrest, she had managed to send a message to her old friend Detmer. An investigative journalist thought the message contained just one line. Check the archives about the Harvester War. Sol System holds the answer. The truth about humanity was about to spread across the galaxy, whether the authorities wanted it or not. Detmer stared at the strange message from his friend Dr. Kixara. As one of the galaxy's best investigative journalists, he had learned to spot important stories. This message felt different, urgent, dangerous. He started his investigation carefully. Official records about the Harvester War were almost impossible to find. Most databases simply said classified or access denied. The few public records only mentioned that an external threat had been successfully resolved 200 years ago. But Detmer knew how to dig deeper. He specialized in finding people who had been there when important things happened. Barons often talked when they thought no one was listening. They met in old bars on forgotten space stations. They told stories to their grandchildren. Sometimes they even answered questions from friendly journalists. The first veteran he found was working as a mechanic on Gamma Station. Vorthik was an old Nithik who had served as a communications officer during the Harvester War. His 4 eyes had gone dim with age, and his gray skin was covered with scars from old battles. The Harvesters? Vorthik stopped working on the engine he was fixing. Why do you want to know about them? I am researching galactic military history. Detmer lied smoothly. Just looking for personal stories from veterans. Vorthik looked around the empty repair bay, then moved closer. That was not a war, young journalist. That was a nightmare. Those machines, they were not like anything we had ever seen. What made them so dangerous? Everything. Vorthik's voice became a whisper. They could not be reasoned with. They could not be scared. They just consumed everything in their path. Entire planets would be stripped bare in days. Not just the people, the plants, the animals, even the dirt and rocks. They turned it all into fuel for more machines. But the war ended. They were defeated. Vorthik made a strange noise that might have been a laugh. Defeated? Is that what the official records say? He shook his head. We did not defeat them, boy. We could barely scratch their paint. I was on the bridge of the flagship when we got the last transmission from the main Harvester fleet. What did it say? Priority target identified. Proceeding to Sol 3 for immediate harvest. We thought they were going to destroy another colony world. Some primitive planet that would not be able to fight back. We felt sorry for the poor creatures living there. Vorthik turned back to his work, but Dagmar could see his hand shaking. What happened next? Nothing. Complete silence. We sent scout ships 6 months later to see what was left of the planet. They came back with the strangest reports. No harvesters. Just pieces. Tiny fragments scattered across multiple star systems. And the planet was still there. Still inhabited. Still primitive. Dagmar spent the next 3 weeks tracking down more veterans. Each one told similar stories. The pattern was always the same. Terror, helplessness, then sudden, impossible silence from the Sol system. On Kepler Station, he found Admiral Zex Tara, retired. She had commanded a rescue fleet sent to investigate after the harvesters disappeared. I will never forget what we found. She told him over drinks in a dark corner of the station bar. Harvester ships broken into pieces no bigger than your hand. But here's the strange part. They were not destroyed. They were taken apart, carefully, like someone had studied every bolt and wire. Taken apart by who? The humans, obviously. Though we did not know that word then. The inhabitants of Sol 3. We tried to make contact, to offer help. We thought they must be traumatized survivors who had somehow escaped the harvest. Admiral Zex Tara drank deeply before continuing. The response we got, it still gives me nightmares. A single ship came up from the planet. It was clearly built using harvester technology, but modified, improved. The design was so elegant it made our best ships look like flying garbage. What did they say? The communication was simple. A human female appeared on our screens. She was drinking something from a cup that looked like it was made from harvester hull plating. She said, "Thanks for checking on us. The pest control situation has been handled. We appreciate the warning about the metal locusts. Is there anything else we can help you with?" Dagmar almost choked on his drink. Pest control? They called the harvesters pests? Metal locusts, to be exact. As if millions of ships that had destroyed 3 star systems were just annoying insects. Admiral Zex Tara stared into her glass. My communication officer asked if they needed medical assistance or supply drops. The human looked confused for a moment, then laughed. She said, "Oh, we're fine. Actually, this has been quite useful. We've learned a lot from the recycling project." Recycling project? She gestured behind her. Through the communication screen, we could see what looked like a massive construction site. Dozens of ships being built using harvester technology. But they were not copies. They were improvements. Better designs. More efficient weapons. The humans had not just survived the harvester invasion. They had turned it into a learning opportunity. The most disturbing interview came from Captain Jexlorn, a Krex military officer who had served on Deep Space Patrol. He was drunk when Dagmar found him, and drunk people often told the truth. You want to know about the humans? I will tell you about the humans. 3 years after the Harvester War ended, my patrol ship detected unknown vessels in the Outer Rim. We investigated. Captain Jexlorn's red scales had faded to a sick pink color. It was a human exploration fleet. 12 ships, all using modified harvester technology. They were mapping new hyperspace routes like it was the most normal thing in the galaxy. Did you make contact? Our captain tried to establish communication. Standard first contact protocols. The human commander was very polite. He introduced himself as Captain Johnson from the Earth Exploration Service. He asked if we needed any assistance. Dagmar waited for him to continue. My captain asked about the harvester technology in their ships. Captain Johnson looked surprised. He said, "Oh, you mean the old mining equipment?" "Yes, we've made some improvements to the design. Much more efficient now. Would you like to see the technical specifications? We're always happy to share non-military technology." Non-military technology? That was the terrifying part. To them, ships that could have destroyed our entire fleet were just mining equipment. When my captain politely declined the technical data, Captain Johnson smiled and said, "Well, if you change your mind, just let us know. We've got plenty more where that came from." The original owners left quite a large inventory when they decided to relocate. Captain Jexlund finished his drink and looked directly at Deckmer. Relocate. That is how they described the complete annihilation of the Harvester fleet. Like the machines had just decided to move to a different neighborhood. After weeks of interviews, Deckmer had enough information to understand the terrible truth. Humanity had not just defeated the Harvesters. They had treated them like a minor inconvenience, a learning opportunity, a source of useful materials, and somewhere in the Sol system, they were still there, still building, still improving their technology using lessons learned from dismantling the most dangerous threat the galaxy had ever seen. The war between the Krex Empire and Zephyrian Federation suddenly seemed very small and very foolish. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going for 6 hours. Representatives from 47 different species sat around the massive circular chamber, their faces showing fear and exhaustion. The war between the Krex Empire and Zephyrian Federation was spreading across the galaxy like a disease. Ambassador Veltar looked at the latest battle reports with growing horror. Entire star systems were becoming war zones. Trade routes were being destroyed. Refugee ships filled with families were fleeing from the fighting. Both sides seemed determined to destroy each other completely. "The situation is getting worse every day," announced Councillor Dexmar from the podium. "We have lost contact with 12 colonies. Both fleets are using increasingly dangerous weapons. If this continues, we may see the collapse of galactic civilization." Worried voices filled the chamber. Representatives argued about sanctions, peacekeeping forces, and diplomatic solutions. Nothing seemed to work. The Krex and Zephyrian forces were too angry and too proud to listen to reason. Then Commander Hexter of the Altarian Defense Force stood up. He was young for a military commander, and young officers sometimes had dangerous ideas. "Honored counselors, I have a proposal. What if we recruited additional military support? There are species in the galaxy that are not involved in this conflict. Species with advanced technology who could help us enforce peace." Several representatives nodded hopefully. This sounded reasonable. "Which species do you suggest, Commander?" asked Councillor Dexmar. Commander Hexter his datapad. A star map appeared in the air above the chamber. "I have been studying historical military records. There is one species that has demonstrated remarkable combat effectiveness. They defeated a major threat to galactic security with minimal assistance from us." A red dot appeared on the star map, marking a small yellow star near the edge of the galaxy. "I suggest we contact the humans of Sol 3. The chamber fell completely silent. Veltar watched as every single representative turned to stare at the young commander. The silence stretched on for a full minute. Then, slowly, nervous whispers began to spread through the room. Councillor Nexvala, the oldest member of the council, stood up slowly. Her ancient voice shook as she spoke. "Commander Hexter, I do not think you understand what you are suggesting. Councillor, the humans successfully defended themselves against the Harvester invasion. Their military capabilities could be exactly what we need to stop this war." "Defended themselves?" Councillor Nexvala made a harsh laughing sound. "Child, you clearly do not know the full story." She activated her own datapad with trembling fingers. New information appeared on the chamber's main display screen. Most of it was marked with the highest security classifications. "This is Intelligence Report Omega-7, compiled by our best analysis teams. It contains everything we know about human activity since the Harvester incident. The first image showed a space telescope view of the Sol system. Veltar gasped at what he saw. The entire system was filled with artificial structures. Massive space stations. Ships bigger than small moons. Construction projects that stretched across millions of kilometers. The humans have been busy since their first contact with galactic technology, Counselor Nexvala explained. They reverse-engineered harvester equipment and improved it in ways we still do not understand. The next image showed something that made several representatives faint. It was a peaceful-looking planet covered in green forests and blue oceans. The image looked normal until the scale marker appeared. The entire planet was artificial. This is what humans call a nature preserve, the counselor continued. It is larger than most inhabited worlds. Our long-range sensors detect massive energy readings from beneath the surface. We believe it is actually a weapons testing facility designed to look like a natural environment. Commander Hexter was starting to look less confident. But surely they would be reasonable. We could offer them trade agreements, territorial rights. Counselor Nexvala pulled up another file. This is an intercepted human communication from last month. It was broadcast on an open frequency from Earth to one of their exploration fleets. A human voice began speaking from the chamber's speakers. The tone was casual, friendly, like someone discussing vacation plans. Hey, Exploration Team 7, this is Mission Control. We finished the asteroid mining project in Sector 15. Harvested about 4 billion tons of useful materials. The new nano-swarms are working great. They can strip a whole asteroid field in just 3 days. The engineering team wants to test the improved efficiency on something bigger. Maybe a small moon next time? Also, the coffee shortage on Station 12 has been resolved. Turns out the problem was a contaminated water recycler. Fixed it by rebuilding the whole station from scratch. Took us the whole weekend. Hope you guys are having fun exploring those gas giants. Love, Mom. The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Representatives shouted over each other, trying to process what they had heard. Humans treated the destruction of entire asteroid fields as routine mining operations. They rebuilt space stations for fun. They had nanoswarms that could consume anything they wanted. There is more, Counselor Nexvala said grimly. The room fell quiet again. This is a conversation between two human scientists, recorded by our listening posts near the Sol system boundary. Another recording began to play. Hey Sarah, how did the weapon efficiency tests go? Pretty well. The new plasma cannons can sterilize about 15 cubic light years in roughly 6 hours. Much better than the old design. 15 light years? That seems like overkill for most situations. Well, sure, for small problems. But you know how it is. Better to have too much firepower than too little. Besides, we made sure the blast pattern avoids inhabited systems. We're not monsters. Good point. What about the deployment scenarios? We've worked out 3 basic options. Limited deployment would just clear out a few star systems, perfect for pest control situations. Medium deployment could handle bigger problems, maybe clear a whole spiral arm if needed. Full deployment. Well, let's just say that's the start over with a clean galaxy option. And it wouldn't affect Earth? Nah, we've got good shielding. Might disrupt the coffee supply chains for a few days, but nothing serious. Several representatives had to be carried out of the chamber. Others were making emergency calls to their home governments. The humans discussed weapons that could destroy multiple star systems the same way other species. Talked about gardening tools. Ambassador Veltar stood up on shaking legs. Counselors, I move that we immediately contact both the Krex Empire and Zephyrian Federation. We must warn them. Warn them about what? Asked Commander Hexter weakly. That if they try to involve the humans in their war, we will consider it an act of aggression against all galactic civilization. We will also inform them that any attempt to approach the Sol system will result in their immediate expulsion from the Council and the public. Release of Earth's exact location to their enemies. The vote was unanimous. 47 different species, many of whom disagreed about everything else, all voted for the same thing. Keep the humans out of this war at all costs. As the emergency session ended, representatives hurried back to their ships to carry the warning. The message would be simple and clear: leave Earth alone, and pray that Earth continues to leave everyone else alone. In the empty chamber, Counselor Nexvala sat alone, staring at the star map still showing the Sol system. She had been alive during the Harvester War. She remembered the terror, the helplessness, the certain knowledge that galactic civilization was about to end. Now she felt that same terror again, but for a different reason. The Harvesters had wanted to destroy all organic life. The humans just wanted to be left alone to work on their projects. Somehow, that was much more frightening. General Thax paced back and forth in his private command center. The war was not going well for the Krex Empire. Zephyrian forces had destroyed 3 of his best fleets. His supply lines were cut. His homeworlds were under attack. In another month, maybe 2, his empire would fall. The Council's warning about Earth had arrived 3 weeks ago. Every government in the galaxy had received the same message: do not contact the humans under any circumstances. But General Thax was desperate. Desperate commanders sometimes made dangerous choices. "Sir, the diplomatic ship is ready," reported his aide, Captain Vextar. "And the crew understands the mission is completely secret?" "Yes, sir." "No communications with Fleet Command. No official records. If something goes wrong, the Empire will deny all knowledge of the mission." General Thax nodded. He had selected his best diplomatic team for this mission. If the humans were as powerful as the intelligence report suggested, maybe they could be convinced to help end this war quickly. The Empire was prepared to offer almost anything in exchange for military assistance. Tell Ambassador Klexmore to proceed to Earth immediately. Maximum stealth. Avoid all patrols from both our forces and the Zephyrians. The small diplomatic ship left Krex space under cover of darkness. It would take 12 days to reach the Sol system using hidden hyperspace routes. General Thax spent those days planning his victory celebration. With human technology and weapons, the Krex Empire could end this war in weeks instead of years. He would regret that optimism very soon. On day 11 of the journey, Ambassador Klexmore sent his final transmission, approaching Sol system. Beginning first contact protocols. Will report back within 48 hours. 47 hours later. Every major world in both the Krex Empire and Zephyrian Federation woke up to an impossible sight. A single ship hung in orbit above each planet. Not a fleet. Not an invasion force. Just one ship per world, appearing simultaneously across hundreds of star systems. The ships were clearly built using Harvester technology, but they had been modified in ways that made even experienced engineers feel sick looking at them. They were too smooth, too elegant, too perfect, that no alarms had been triggered. No defense networks had detected them. They had simply appeared, as if they had always been there. General Thax stood in his command center, staring at the human vessel hanging motionless above his home world. Every instrument on his space stations was going crazy. Energy readings that made no sense. Gravitational distortions that should have been impossible. The ship was somehow bending the laws of physics just by existing. "Sir," whispered his communication officer, "we are receiving an incoming transmission from the human vessel. Put it through." The main screen activated, showing the bridge of the human ship. A woman in a simple blue uniform sat in what looked like a comfortable chair. She was holding a white cup with steam rising from it. The cup appeared to be made from polished metal that reflected light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Behind her, General Thax could see other humans working at control stations. They all looked relaxed, casual, like they were just stopping by to say hello. "Greetings," the woman said with a warm smile. "I'm Captain Sarah Chun of the Earth Diplomatic Service. I understand one of your representatives visited our system recently. Ambassador Klexmore, I believe? Lovely fellow. Very polite." General Thax found his voice. "What have you done with my ambassador?" "Oh, he's fine. Currently enjoying some excellent coffee in our guest quarters. He seemed quite tired after his long journey, so we invited him to rest for a while. Don't worry, our hospitality is much better than our reputation suggests." Captain Chun took a sip from her cup. "He made a very interesting offer, by the way. Something about military alliance in exchange for territorial rights? We appreciate the thought, but I'm afraid we're quite busy with our own projects right now." "What projects?" General Thax asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. "Oh, the usual. We're about halfway through cataloging and improving all the abandoned harvester equipment scattered around the galaxy. Did you know they left behind nearly 4 million ships? Most of them in surprisingly good condition once you work out the design flaws." Captain Chen gestured behind her, and the view screen showed what looked like a massive construction facility. Ships in various stages of completion filled the space as far as the eye could see. But these were not copies of harvester vessels. They were something new, something that made harvester technology look primitive by comparison. "We've also been monitoring galactic communications," Captain Chun continued conversationally. "Standard practice when developing first contact protocols. We couldn't help but notice that you and the Zephyrian Federation have been having some disagreements. That is an internal galactic matter," General Thax said weakly. "Of course it is. We have no intention of interfering with your local politics. But since Ambassador Klexmore asked for our help, we thought we should at least provide some friendly advice." Captain Chun's smile never wavered, but somehow it became much more frightening. "We strongly suggest that both sides work out your differences peacefully. War is such a wasteful way to solve problems, don't you think?" General Thax could not find words to respond. Around him, his command staff stood frozen in terror. "Just to demonstrate that we're being completely sincere," Captain Chen said pleasantly, "I've taken the liberty of transmitting some coordinates to your navigation computer. You might find them interesting." General Thax looked at his navigation officer, who checked the coordinates with shaking hands. "Sir, these coordinates point to the Outer Rim, the location where the Harvester mothership was last detected." "What is there now?" General Thax asked, though part of him already knew he did not want the answer. Captain Chun's smile became genuinely cheerful. "Shopping mall. We converted the original mothership into a commercial and recreational facility. Took us about 6 months to renovate the whole thing. It's quite popular with our colonists. Best food court in the local galaxy cluster, if I do say so myself." The view screen switched to show an external view of what had once been the most feared weapon in galactic history. The massive Harvester mothership, over 1,000 kilometers long, had been converted into a gleaming commercial complex. Humans walked through the corridors where machine intelligences had once planned the destruction of all organic life. Children played in parks built inside weapon bays that could have destroyed planets. The original owners left behind some fascinating architecture, Captain Chun explained. "We kept most of the structural elements but updated the interior design. Much more welcoming now. We even have a historical exhibit about the old residents. Very educational." General Thax felt something break inside his mind. The most powerful weapon ever created had become a shopping center. Humans had turned an instrument of galactic annihilation into a place to buy groceries and watch movies. "I think our business here is concluded," Captain Chun said. Ambassador Klexmore will be returned to you safely within the hour. He enjoyed his visit quite a bit, though I suspect he'll have some interesting stories to tell. She paused to take another sip of coffee. Oh, and General? We've taken the liberty of sharing these same coordinates with the Zephyrian Federation. We thought they might also find our renovation project educational. Nothing brings perspective like seeing history turned into something useful. The transmission ended. Within hours, ceasefire declarations began broadcasting from every military command in both empires. The war that had threatened to destroy galactic civilization was over in less than a day. 3 months later, the Galactic Council formally established the Soul Accords. The treaty was simple. Earth would be left completely alone. No ships would approach the Sol system. No communications would be sent to humanity. No military actions would be taken near human space. In exchange, humanity promised to continue not noticing the rest of the galaxy existed. Ambassador Veltar, now appointed as the first director of human relations, kept a copy of humanity's official response to the treaty on his desk. It was written on paper made from processed harvester hull material. Thanks for the formal treaty, but it really wasn't necessary. We're quite happy to keep to ourselves. The galaxy seems to be working out its problems just fine without our input. If you ever need anything, just let us know. We're always happy to help friendly neighbors. By the way, we've attached some technical specifications for improved hyperspace navigation systems. Consider it a housewarming gift. Take care. The people of Earth. The attached technical data advanced galactic civilization by approximately 500 years. Veltar kept the letter as a reminder of the most important lesson in diplomatic history. Sometimes the most terrifying thing about a powerful neighbor is not their threats, but their kindness.